Morning, y'all. Let's inhale the energy of the past and exhale it into the present. Open up your third eye and let's take a journey through all that makes this messy world what it is. This one's for the guys. Ladies and theys, you're welcome to stay around and are always encouraged to be part of the conversation. But today, I'm talking right to the men out there. So fellas, how are we doing? How do you feel? How does it feel to be asked that? How does it feel to ask yourself? Not too long ago, I did a photo shoot for a photography student at the art school where I live. My girlfriend saw a flyer and said I should try it out because the shoot was focused on the idea of masculinity. Guys with glasses and facial hair were encouraged to apply, so I had no excuse. It was an interesting experience, being dressed up and displayed in male-affiliated clothes and accessories. Biker jackets, baseball caps, V-neck t-shirts, all in my most unapologetically macho poses. Walking into the studio space, we passed an all-female shoot with what I can only describe as medieval fairy energy. When I stepped in front of the camera, the student's assistant was a brown-haired girl who told me I looked cute. I knew it was the thing she was doing for all the models to help them feel and look confident, but it worked. All of this felt like a pile of juxtapositions. The tough guy posing next door to the fairy princesses. But I quickly figured out that juxtaposition was the whole point. At the end of the photo shoot, the student put me on the spot. He started filming me on his phone and said, "What does masculinity mean to you?" I honestly can't remember the answer I gave, as I'm sure it was a rambling, off-the-cuff word vomit. I surely was being careful not to say something offensive or brash, and was towing a line I created in my mind over what answers were accepted. And as time has passed, I realized how much of an issue it is that answer is so hard to define. I've come up with more of an answer, but before sharing it, think about this to yourself, and feel free to pause the video here to do so. What does masculinity mean to you? To me, it feels like this. To be a man, as opposed to a woman, a girl, but mostly as opposed to a boy, is to be the responsibility taker over yourself, your loved ones, and the community at large around you, especially those who need the most help. To be a man is to take care of your duties, never leave your people behind, and never complain about it or take on a victim mentality because of it. A man cares for his own because it's what he does, not because of what he gets in return for it. You'll notice that none of these things involve putting anyone down. That includes a man putting himself down just to not seem like a brute chauvinist. Because a man who is confident with who he is and knows that anyone who puts others down to prop himself up isn't a man at all, and only exudes fake confidence. A man knows that the loudest one in the room is often the weakest one in the room. A man puts his authentic self proudly on display, no matter how flamboyant or reserved that true self is, while still respecting the true self of all others. A man wants to spread his confidence, not absorb it from others. I phrased everything here carefully because I recognize the phenomenons happening right now around gender and where societal discussions around it often leave men. Many men have grown to view the feminist movement as simply male-hating and diminishing, built on a revenge-driven resentment. How right or wrong that assessment is another story. But the fact remains that many men have responded to this movement with a feeling of exclusion from modern society, like they naturally don't fit in and are seen as inherently toxic just because of the genitalia they were born with. For too many, this feeling has morphed into a chauvinistic doubling down of all the worst traits associated with manliness. Driven away from feminism and gender equality and into the arms of aggressively patriarchal public figures, many men have adopted a similar feeling of vengeance and grievance towards women, which aims to put others down in the name of masculinity. Back and forth these energies have gone in our public discourse, leading to unseen discrepancies in ideologies along gender lines. I want to attempt to neutralize that energy and remove the vengeance clouding the vision of too many. I'm starting with my side, the men. Listen, guys. We've all seen those of us screaming at other gym attendants as they throw weights around, flipping someone off at a red light before revving their engine and cutting them off, grabbing girls patronizingly at the club, and I could go on. If you don't think you've seen them, you may be one of them yourself. But I'm here to tell you that none of these activities, traits, or beliefs make you a man. A Tribe Called Quest said, "You're not any less of a man if you don't pull the trigger. You're not necessarily a man if you do." And in fact, a man should know that these traits make you less of a man, since a man should never need to prop himself up off of someone else's pain. But what if I told you, gentlemen, that you don't necessarily have to go in the complete opposite direction? There's nothing wrong with being a man with a feminine flair, who's hypersensitive and fully in tune with their emotions. You can exude all of those traits and exude the traits of responsibility that I mentioned earlier. But there's even a far larger gray area between this kind of man and that man at the gym than the modern gender discourse might make you believe. That's right. Good news, guys. You can still do things like watch the game with your boys, be into construction or yard work, dress conservatively, even roughhouse, and still not be an asshole about it. You can do these things in a way that just recognizes that it's part of who you personally are, rather than as part of a resentment over feminist messages. You can be in tune with your emotions, and your emotions can tell you that you like these things. It's not about the activities you're doing, it's about the way you do them and why. Do you watch the game with your boys because you're tired of your wife? Or can you express that while you love your wife, you need time with your friends just as much because you love them too? And you can still love your man and be manly, dog, as old Kanye once said. Do you go to the gym or work construction because you feel it's the way to prove your manliness, and that anyone who doesn't is less of a man than you? Or can you express that you like doing these things as a means of staying healthy and active, that you like to use your hands and to create things? In each of these questions, the latter answers are completely valid and should be respected. And at the same time, they don't diminish any traits associated with manliness. So ask yourself these things as you go about your day, fellas. Ask yourself what masculinity means to you and you only. Not in response to any feminist energies or responding chauvinistic energies. Ask yourself how some of these masculine activities and characteristics coincide with feminine ones. Where do the biker jacket wearers and the princess dress wearers intersect? Perhaps more places than you think. How does it feel to think of your masculinity this inclusively and intentionally? Maybe the more we as men think of ourselves as part of the discussion on gender, the less we'll feel like the inherent villains of the story, who can only prove themselves harmfully. Perhaps the more we ask ourselves how we feel and why, the more we can sharply define masculinity for ourselves. And the more we become men through realizing what it truly means to be a man, perhaps we'll feel like we have more of a positive place in this world. Perhaps we'll use our masculinity to help the world. And that's a thought to meditate on. Sit with these thoughts for as long as you need to, after the episode is over and breathe through them. Remember, I don't want this to be a one-way conversation. So, follow @MorningMeditationPod on Instagram and send your thoughts there. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and come back next time for more mindful dives into new topics. Keep looking through your third eye, and I'll see you next time.